There was war, and in that war, which mainly took place in 1948, several things happened which still affect us today. In that same war, the Arab countries, playing no positive role in this whatsoever, also took control. The state of Jordan took control of the west bank of the Jordan River. State of Egypt took control of the Gaza Strip. So Palestine, historic Palestine, disappeared from the map of the world. Now, 19 years later, in 1967, the state of Israel conquered the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. Another 250,000 Palestinians driven out, creating this huge, 1948 and 67, creating this huge refugee problem in the region here. Right after 1967, the state of Israel did a couple of things which also still affect us today hugely. Immediately after the war in 1967, which lasted 6 days, the state of Israel annexed all of Jerusalem, which had been a divided city up until that point, made it formally part of the state of Israel. This is illegal under international law. They did it in any case. The state of Israel did not and has not ever annexed the West Bank or the Gaza Strip to become formally part of the state of Israel. Again, whether or not it's legal to do that, they've never done it. They have, however, maintained control of the West Bank and of the Gaza Strip for all of this time, both militarily and other ways. So they have continued to occupy those two zones, and that's why we call them occupied territories, since 1967. 37 years. It is the longest such occupation that is currently existing in the world. Where that leaves us today is with the populations as follows. And these numbers actually do matter to get an idea of some of the issues in the region. So we'll come back to a little more history later, but today, inside the state of Israel are 4.5 to 5 million Israeli Jews, citizens of the state of Israel, which for them is a democracy very much like our own in this country, with the upsides and the downsides of that, with many of the same flaws, many of the same strengths as our own. Inside the state of Israel are about 1 million Israeli Palestinians, Palestinians who were not driven out, the remnants in 1948 or in 1967, their children, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren. Those 1 million Palestinians, Israeli Palestinians, are citizens of the state of Israel. They vote, they participate in Israeli democracy. They are not by any means equal citizens with Israeli Jews. They are discriminated against in a wide variety of ways, but they fundamentally do participate in the democracy. They have many of the civil rights that we associate with a modern democracy in that way. Outside of Israel, in refugee camps, actually some of the refugee camps are still in the occupied territories, are between, depending on who's counting, 2 and 4 million Palestinian refugees. The state of Israel has refused to allow these refugees to come back, even though the UN demanded that they do that and has repeatedly done so. Some of those refugees have resettled in other places. There are more Palestinians in diaspora dispersed throughout the world and so forth. But at least 1.5 million, between 1.5 million and 2 million are living still in refugee camps that the UN set up in 1948. We're supposed to last 50 years. They've actually used up their contract that way, but are still in existence. Then inside the occupied territories, about 3.5 million Palestinians who are not citizens of the state of Israel are subjects of a military occupation, are citizens of no state anywhere. Linda's going to talk more about what that means to be a subject of a military occupation. And one more population that is very important to know about: since 1967, since Israel took control of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, the state of Israel has facilitated the moving of an Israeli Jewish population into the West Bank and into the Gaza Strip, the settlers, and build settlements for them. The settler population is about 400,000 people right now. These are Israeli Jewish citizens who still participate in Israeli democracy, even though their neighbors do not in this way. So one thing to know about that population, therefore, is that there's 5 or 5.5 million Israeli Jews in the region. There are between 6 and 8 million Palestinians in the region as well, including the refugees that are outside. There's also an increasing population of what they call guest workers, Romanians, Thai, various people that are being brought in as transient workers into Israel this way. So occupation is one of the main things that we need to be concerned about. So for more on occupation, here is Linda.